Here are my top 5 tips for improving your nutrition and adherence to it. For many of us, trying to adhere to our nutrition, trying to eat within our calorie range can be really, really difficult. It's very easy to allow that outside food in and go completely off track. So here are 5 of my suggestions of what might help you to stay on track and actually start to see results from adhering to your nutrition. Number 1, make sure you are drinking plenty. For many of us, we are dehydrated, we are not consuming enough water or water-based products such as herbal teas, tea and coffee. And it's really essential that we do, because what we end up finding ourselves doing, instead of satiating our thirst, we satiate it through hunger. And it's not actually hunger that is the issue. So really be mindful that when you think you are feeling hungry, to have a glass of water first and see if you truly are hungry, and then from there you can make that decision. But really we should be focusing on looking at around 2 litres to 3 litres of water in a day. So be mindful, is your consumption enough? Number 2, eating mindfully. For many of us, eating and mindfully do not tend to come together. We tend to stand there eating in front of a computer screen at work, or sitting down at the end of the evening, watching our mobile phone or watching TV, and we're really distracted. We're not really eating and thinking about the food we're putting into our mouths. This is a time where you really need to switch off and take time to consume the food and really appreciate the food we're eating, and actually notice when those hunger cues say, I'm full. This is one of the biggest things that I found myself, and for many others, is the key for them having more success in their nutrition. Number 3, prepping or batch cooking your food. When we say prepping, everybody gets a little bit overwhelmed and thinks, well, that's not really for me, that's not realistic into my lifestyle. But there are a number of ways we can prep or batch cook our food. So we can just make sure that we are creating a lot of food at maybe the beginning of our week that we can then dish up and serve in different ways. Especially when you're in a family environment, I appreciate how hard it is to necessarily stick to a prepped calorific intake. The best way that I would recommend you do this in a family situation is to actually prep backwards, or in a partner situation where your partner's not necessarily doing the same thing you are doing in terms of your calorie intake. So therefore, take into account your last meal of the day and then work your meals backwards, so you can work out how many calories you have remaining to eat over the course of the rest of the day. This will mean that you don't end up overeating when you get to the evening, because you feel the necessity to obviously join in with the family meal or the meal with your partner. Number 4 is to actually track your food. For many people, it really helps to track their food. Now, this can be done 2 ways. One, you can either write this in a journal, so it just gives you an idea of what you are consuming and if you think you're really consuming enough or if you're consuming too much. And you might find there's a tendency to underreport those foods that we don't want anybody to really know about, but you do need to be honest with yourself, and it allows you to be a little bit more mindful again of what you are consuming. For others, using something like a MyFitnessPal app will be also really useful, because again, it can make you aware of the amount of calories you are currently consuming and to keep you on track. It also means you can pre-plan the foods that you're about to eat for the rest of the week, so you can already forecast the food you're going to eat, and that way you don't start going off track on a day-to-day basis. Number 5, snackage. So we all know we have those yummy treats lurking in the back cupboard, normally because our kids want some or our partners like to have something to take to work with them, and you're trying to stay on track, and the last thing you want is knowing that there's some snacks in the house that you might well devour before your actual meal that you're meant to have had. So there are a couple of ways you can work around this. Number 1, you just don't buy them, and that's usually the best option. Or number 2, you have to buy them because you know, like, your kids want to go to school with something in their packed lunch, or your partner does. And in that case, only buy the required amount for that week. So you know that there is only enough for the 1, 2 or 3 people who are in your household. That means there's nothing there for you. And if you have it, then they are without it. So sometimes just knowing that by delving into their snacks, that means they will have nothing to take with them, will not often be enough of a deterrent to just not have it. Also, maybe just buy snacks that you don't particularly like, that they do like. That is also another option. I know that this is probably the hardest one, and for many people, the idea of sort of delving into that cupboard, especially when it's for women, the time of the month, or just when it's stressful, that's the first thing we kind of want to reach for. But try to have alternative snacks for yourself. So things that you know are maybe slightly healthier choices. So worst case scenario, you've got some flavored rice cakes, or you've got some like fruit and so forth that you could reach for instead of. This is what I would say is kind of my safety measure if it all goes horribly wrong and I just really, really want to dive into an entire biscuit barrel. So I hope you find these 5 tips really useful. Let me know your tips. Is there anything that you found has really helped you when you've just wanted to like gorge the whole kitchen, or if you feel like you've gone off track? And also just a reminder, if you do go off track, it's fine. It happens. We all do it. It's recognizing that you've come off track and how you're going to get back on track. And it's really about consistency, like our training, like everyday life, like how we run our household. It's about the consistency to it. When we are consistent, we see results. When we're not consistent, it obviously goes a bit downhill. So let's try and get back on track. I hope, as I say, you find this useful, and I will see you again soon. Take care.